Today's topic, supply chain management systems, under chapter 4. So what is supply chain management? It is a cross-functional inter-enterprise system that uses information technology to help support and manage the links between some of a company's key business processes and those of its suppliers, customers, and business partners. Right? It is a IT. It is a functional thing that uses IT and tries to connect the stakeholders of a business. So simply to explain it in a different way. So it's a cross-functional. Why do we say cross-functional? Because we are going to talk with other departments, other different operational areas in a company will be communicating with each other using IT to do what? To help support and manage the links between the stakeholders or between the key business processes. What could be the key business processes in a company? Sales, purchasing, accounting, HR, all these are key business processes. So how do we coordinate that with the different stakeholders such as suppliers, customers, and business partners? So these are the breakdown points if you want to easily memorize the definition. So highlight this word cross-functional. Cross-functional inter-enterprise system is like almost the same, cross-functional or inter-enterprise. So both they have put it together. So within the so something that you do within the company itself. So cross-functional and inter-enterprise system using IT to do what? To help support and manage the links uh, between whom? Between the key processes and the stakeholders. So the goal of SCM is to create a fast, efficient, and low-cost network of business relationships or supply chain to get a company's products from concept to market. Right? So what is a supply chain? Supply chain is a fast, efficient, low-cost network of business relationships. So this is the definition of a supply chain. Fast, efficient, low-cost network of business relationship to get a company's products from concept to market. So what do you mean by concept? You have the idea, and that, let's say you have a product idea. From that idea, how do you reach out to the selling point? How do you bring that idea to a market? In between all the processes what we do it in a supply chain, and that is where supply chain management is going to be involved. So you have an idea in a brain or brain of people. How do you get it to the customers? How do you get that into a real product into the customers? So in between we use SCM. Another explanation of supply chain. Let's suppose a company wants to build and sell a product to other businesses. Then it must buy raw materials and a variety of contracted services from other companies. Right? So either both can happen. So if you are going to do something on your own without any external help, you may still need to buy some raw materials. Right? If you're going to do something at home, so you will buy raw materials, like from the grocery shop, you will buy something, buy the necessary things, and then you make that product, food or whatever the uh, handmade item, right? Think in a very small way. Same thing you apply to a large company that concept. So that is, you buy the raw material. Or what you do is, you may buy the raw materials. Also, you may hire somebody to help you. So that is what we call contracted services, right? So sometimes you may need a mentor or some trainer needs to come, or somebody who is experienced. You will consult that people and make sure your work is done, right? Even if you are going to build a small tub or something in your home, let's say you are going to build a you're going to place a sink or something, so you will buy the sink, that is the raw material, maybe the pipe and whatever the relevant tap, and maybe you need some mason or a plumber, both. So that is what we call contracted services, because like sometimes you may not be able to do those fixing, but you provide the raw materials, and these contracted services you hire them, right? The same thing in a company, think at a larger level. So the interrelationships with suppliers, customers, distributors, and other businesses that are needed to design, build, and sell a product make up the network of a business, entities, relationships, and processes that is called a supply chain. Right? Interrelationships between suppliers, customers, distributors, and other companies. Other businesses means other companies that are needed to design, build, and sell a product, that make up a network of business entities, relationships, and processes. So this is called a supply chain. So it's imagine a chain, how a chain is held together. Each and every ring of the chain is tightened with each other. So what are the tightening parts? This strong interrelationships between the different people. So each ring in the chain might be a supplier, customer, distributor. So when you hold the chain in a different shape, you come up with different design, or you come up with a strong framework, making sure how you can sell the product. So this network of business entities, relationships, and processes is known as a supply chain. Because each supply chain process should add value to the products or services the company produces. A supply chain is frequently called a value chain, right? So just simply having a chain network is a very high level definition, but that is not sufficient unless you generate some value. Value means you have to make use of that. Each party who is involved in this chain needs to benefit. So that benefit is known as value. That word is called value. So that's why when each and every person is coming and joining this supply chain, it should add value to the ultimate product, or it should add value to the services that companies produce. So in these terms, the supply chain is known as value chain. Okay, so the management process of this supply chain is simply SCM. So supply chain management encompasses, so we'll be seeing more different explanations of SCM in the coming slides, but here let's try to understand at a very, very high level, simple level. So supply chain management encompasses all the activities required to get the right product into the right consumer's hands in the right quantity at the right time at the right cost. So all those things, important ones, are given in a different color. From the identification of suppliers and the acquisition of raw materials through manufacture and customer delivery. So each and every area you can see how do you make these things possible, right? So we already learned what is supply chain. We discussed about supply chain is about the strong interrelationships between the different stakeholders in a business, where you try to design, build, and sell a product, where you create a whole network, is called a supply chain. So the management of the supply chain is supply chain management. So what we try to do there is we try to get the right product to the right people at the right quantity, right time without any delay, and to the proper price, right cost. So where does it start from? It starts from the point of how you identify the appropriate suppliers. The raw material suppliers are there, no? The people who give you the necessary things to start the work. So those people are known as suppliers. From there, and then how do you purchase the materials at the right quantity? Through manufacturing, then how do you manufacture it? How do you produce it? Until how do you make it reach to the right consumers and through customer delivery, right? So this is called supply chain management. So the organizations that compose supply chain are linked together through both physical flows and information flows. Okay. So there are two types of high level flows that get involved. In a later slide, you will see there is another flow as well. Right. So when you're doing SCM, you can see there are two types of things flowing. Flowing means going through this management process. One is physical flows. What are they? So they are the transformation, movement, and storage of supplies and raw materials. Right? Mainly the things that you need to start and ensure how it goes through the production process. So those materials are called the physical flows, right? So uh, imagine like I'll take that example again. Um, like you're going to build a sink or you're going to fix a sink. So maybe a sink, you may need also some mason to like properly, place that. So what would be the physical flows in that particular activity? So the ultimate product is you want to have a nice sink properly placed. So that is the ultimate objective. So the physical flows into that process is so you need the cement, the quantity of the cement, then you need the measurements, like so measurement. Okay, ignore that from the physical flow. So I'm talking about the real products that are coming in, raw materials. Then you need the water, then you need like the pipe and taps and whatever necessary to whatever the things, physical things you need to make sure. So maybe as the mason is starting to uh, build up things, there could be a shortage, or sometimes some materials can get damaged, so they need to purchase again. So that movement, transformation, and storing in necessary right quantities, that is called physical flows. Information flow is allow participants in the supply chain to communicate their plans, coordinate their work, and manage the efficient flow of goods and material up and down the supply chain. So this communication process, this is like sharing information of the progress of what has happened, how much has been achieved, how many people need. These kind of information related flows are needed when you go from one department to another department. If you take a big company, so when the raw materials are coming in, that information needs to be properly passed out to the next processes. So these are the two types of flows that get involved when you are doing supply chain management. So these are two types of basic flows. Okay, so to do a supply chain management, we use an ERP system. So an ERP system can be used to support this, which includes planning, executing, and controlling all activities involved in raw material sourcing, procurement. Procurement means purchasing, conversion of raw materials to finished products, and the warehousing and delivery of finished product to customers. Right. So to do all of this, we use a ERP. Right. So in ERP, in a SCM, we have all these things that need to be happening: planning, executing, uh, and controlling all activities that are involved in raw material purchasing. Also, after producing the product, the final products or the finished products, we need to store them. So we need a warehouse. So how do you do the warehousing activities and manage that? So we use a ERP system. So the goal of SCM is to decrease costs. Number 2, improve customer service. Also, number 3, reducing the overall investment in inventory in the supply chain. So you can see all these are kind of interrelated. I mean, the concepts are interrelated, and you can see how SCM is trying to achieve this. You need to decrease costs. For whom? For the company who is producing something, as well as the consumer, because consumer needs to have a reasonable price to buy that product. Right? So that is one objective. So both sides, decreasing costs, improving the customer service. So you have to make people happy. That's why we learned earlier We produce the right product at the right time to the right people, right? So we need to improve the customer service. We have to keep on understanding the customer needs. We have to be proactive as a good company. You know these two terms, reactive, proactive. So what do you mean by reactive? Anybody knows the term? It's a good time to just test your knowledge. So what is reactive? What is proactive? Showing response. This is for which one? Yeah, both are showing response. Reactive and proactive showing response. But what is the so I could also argue showing response. Proactive is also showing response. Or you mean to say it different way? So how do you put that properly? So reactive means um, let's say an incident happens, right? A customer complaint comes in. After that, you react. Now, if some problem happens in the town or somewhere, police reacts, right? They are not proactive, right? But imagine in a war situation, if you are in a war field, the army or the military persons, they won't be proactive, they will be, they won't be reactive, they will be proactive. They will be proactive because they will be already studying what is going to happen and be prepared for that. So that is called proactive. Being proactive is what is needed even in a business. If you are using supply chain management, you have to know in advance if you want to produce the right product at the right time to the right people at the right cost. You have to be a proactive. You need to have a proactive process. So then only you can improve the customer service. If you are going to be reactive, just going to attend to incidents, then sometimes you can lose the faith of the customer. Right? So that is what is called reactive and proactive. So we, even at an individual level, it is good to be a proactive person rather than being a reactive person for situational things. So that is improving customer service. So that is another goal, while at the same time reducing the overall investment in inventory in the supply chain. Imagine if you are not producing the right product in right quantities, what happens is sometimes you will end up with unnecessary stocks. Lot of stocks will be there, right? I think I have seen people at a very minor level, people who do these sweet items at homes. Like they do it in certain quantities. But sometimes what happens is, because they don't know how many people are going to buy, what happens is you end up with a lot of stocks, and then what happens? The food is going to be, or whatever the sweets done, is going to be thrown into the garbage. So if we already can know per day how many things are going to be involved, or if you know in a particular day, particular season, this much amount of products are going to be sold, then you can target that quantity and reduce the inventory. Because if you are going to store something, it is going to add up your cost, right? Same like having some items in the fridge, like you eat something, you have an excess of food. What do? You go and put it into the fridge. Now that's a cost for you. Otherwise, you can keep the fridge free, or maybe switch off the fridge if you don't use it, right? But just because we have something in excess in a more quantity than what is needed, we are incurring additional costs. So in a business, we should reduce that investment. That investment can be put into profit, right? So that's how you have to understand. So this is what SCM is trying to achieve: decrease cost, improve customer service, and reduce overall investment in inventory. So these are some of the objectives. Later you will see what are the other things. Okay. So in an earlier slide, I explained physical flows. So the different name for that is material flow. That is one type of information that is being transformed or shared. Information flow also I mentioned. The third one is financial flow. So financial flow is about all the money and funds that are involved when you are moving from one place to another place, right? So the financial flow consists of payment transactions among suppliers, manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, customers, and the financial institution. So this is all about money being transferred. That is financial flow. So materials flow example, as we discussed earlier, inbound movement of raw material from supplier to manufacturer, and outbound movement of finished product from the manufacturer to the customer, wholesaler, retailers. So information flow involves capturing the orders, invoices among suppliers, or transmitting the invoices between the different people, right? So you can see now you have three different types of flows being involved in a SCM process. One is about the product, the other one is about the documents. That is, the documents are the documents or physical voice or whatever the communication stuff. That is information flow. A financial flow is the money, right? So it's easy to remember the different flows in a SCM. Okay, what is the role of an information system in a supply chain management process? So if you look at a conventional view, traditional or the old view of information system is that organizations use them to control and monitor processes and ensure effectiveness and efficiency. People thought in the earlier stages of SCM, earlier stage of an information system, how it is going to help SCM is a way to control and monitor, simply to control and monitor the processes to see how effective and efficient the things are going to be managed. So in this view, information systems are viewed as external to the supply chain management process and serve to control, serve to monitor or control. So information system was used as a system that is just to connect and see, okay, now people will be doing their manual work, everything will be happening manually, but just the information, the transaction flow, or these different things we discussed here, these are simply entered in an offline mode. Like when somebody buys something, you just come and enter into the system. That's it. And then after something is produced, somebody will have to come and give you a sheet, and then a data entry clerk will be there who will be entering that. So this was how information system was viewed at the beginning stages in the SCM process. But now it is more into the process. It is more integral. Integral in sense like you can't disconnect the information system from the SCM process. So a more contemporary means modern view, however, holds that information systems are often so intimately involved that they are part of the process itself. So it's like mixed with the SCM blood, right? You can't look it as a separate system where you manually go and do. So this is in the process, it is needed. From this perspective, the information system plays an integral role in the process, whether providing input, aiding product transformation, or producing output, right? So that is how information systems are used today in the SCM process. So let's take an example of a SCM process where it is used, particularly in manufacturing, right? So I already explained earlier, we use ERP systems to execute all these activities in a SCM process or a SCM management activities. So here are some activities or functions you can see in the manufacturing ERP system: sales forecasting, sales and operation plan, demand management, demand scheduling, materials resource planning, MRP, purchasing, production, and sales order. So we'll see one by one what are these things and what is involved in each. Right. So manufacturing ERP system, what is it? Typically encompasses SCM activities and manages the flow of materials, information, and finances. Those three flows we discussed are also involved in this manufacturing ERP. They follow a systematic process for developing a production plan that draws on the information available in the ERP system. Right? Production plan, we'll see what the word is. To now just simply understand, production plan is something that you need to do. You need to have a plan of, as I told earlier, you have a concept. You want that concept to reach the market, then you need to have a production plan. So that is what is called a production plan. How do you take your concept? You need to have a proper arrangement or proper organized ideas and processes in these three terms, in terms of materials, what information, and the necessary finances to come up with a final product that reaches the market. So that is called production plan. So manufacturing ERP systems, they follow a systematic process. So they start with sales forecasting. Sales forecasting is just to get a rough idea of future customer, to develop an estimate of future customer demand, right? So this initial forecast is at a very fairly high level with estimates made by product group rather than each and every product item, right? So let's say you develop there is a order coming, for example, there is a sales for what you do with sales forecasting is, now let's say customer is coming up with a requirement or a client is asking, okay, we need let's say it's a wedding season, right? You are a company who is going to produce these boutiques of flowers, flower garlands and all. Let's say you are running that business. Now let's say there is a customer who is going to sell that. They are asking you, okay, during this season we need set of garlands under these categories. So they will say, okay, maybe small flowers, big flowers. So they will give the colors or the varieties. They will just give the information, the basic information. They will not say the quantities, right? So what we do as a company who is producing this, we do a sales forecasting to see what could be the demand, what could be the customer demand during that season. And maybe not only one person is going to ask you, there could be other retailers also asking you for the same product. So how do you make a high level plan by the product group? You don't go by each product item. So you say, okay, flowers, then flowers, maybe then you may need some stands as well. So that is another product group where you have to, or maybe you need vases, flower vases also, right? So all these are going to be related product groups for that main product item, right? So that's how you do a first sales forecasting. So it is not going into detail, just very surface level planning. Then what you come up with is you go with the sales and operations plan. This takes demand and the current inventory levels into account and determines the specific product items that need to be produced, as well as when to meet the forecast future demand. Right. Now what you do is, now you go into detailed information. Okay, what product, how much? Then you go and check your warehouse, how much you have already, because customer has asked this particular thing, how much we have to produce. And then you come up with a that kind of plan that is called sales and operations plan. So you take the demand into place, what is the demand coming from the retailers or the customers, then you check your inventory levels, and then you decide which specific products are needed to produce. So I hope that clarifies. Then you go into the next activity, demand management. This will refine the production plan by determining the amount of weekly or daily production needed. Now you go much more in detail. After deciding how many products are needed, what products and how many are needed or how much is needed, now you go into the question of whether you're going to do that in a weekly or daily, because now customer will have a deadline. They will say, okay, I need it by end of this month. So they already given the season time also. Okay, so you already know what is the season time going to start and how long it is going to go. So then you have to decide based on that weekly how many you can produce or daily how much you can produce. You have to decide that. So that is called demand management. So the output of demand management process is the master production schedule, which is a production plan for all finished goods. This is how you come up with the master production schedule, and this will be clear. When you have a demand management process done, you have a clear picture how your employees are going to work or how the production is going to work. And also you can clearly tell the customer, this is how we are going to supply the things. So every week you will get this much amount of items delivered. So that is called demand management. Detailed scheduling is the next process. Uses the production plan defined by the previous process, the demand management process, to develop a detailed production schedule that specifies production scheduling details such as which item to produce first and when production should be switched from one item to another. Now this is something internally you do. You do a detailed scheduling, like which one we are going to do first, and so we will tell the customer you will get these things. So with the demand management, you inform the customer you will get the things on these dates. But now when you're going to produce something, you need a detailed scheduling. Now if you are going to make these small flowers, for example, I take that example of flowers. So those plastic flowers, what are the materials you need first? Are you going to do the, so you may have to order certain things from the suppliers. So then you have to decide which you are going to start first, which activity is going to start first, assembling or whether coloring or maybe, I don't know, heating, whatever, right? Which is the one you're going to do first is what you do with the detailed scheduling, right? So a key decision is how long to make the production run for each product. Right. So then you decide. So let's say item number 1, how long you're going to spend time in the company for doing that. So in that case, you can come up with you may fall into two scenarios. One is longer production runs or shorter production runs. Let's say you are taking a particular item, you are going to take longer production run, means you reduce the number of machine setups required, thus reducing production cost. That means, let's say if you are having a plan that those items are going to be produced for a long time, in the company you can make all the arrangements, like let's say that workshop is there or the workflow, we call that working area as a workflow. In that workflow you can have all the tables or necessary furniture, machinery, all arranged for, like, first let's say it's for a whole month you're going to do the production. You can plan the arrangement for that particular product only in one particular setup. Then maybe the next month you're going to focus on the next product. You may not need the same working arrangements. So then you can shift your machinery, you can shift the people here and there, and come up with another arrangement. So that is called, those kind of things are called longer production. So in thus, if you plan longer production, you don't have to keep changing everything every day. So all your machinery, your furniture setup can be planned for a long time. Right? In that case, you can reduce your unnecessary production cost. As opposed to longer production run, if you are focused on shorter production runs, the thing what happens is it generates less finished product inventory and reduce inventory holding costs. So this is the benefit of shorter production. If you are focused on things that are going to be delivered the next day or the next couple of days, you don't have to have a big arrangement of furniture and things like that. because you don't have to have warehousing also. As you produce, you're supplying. As you produce, you send it off, right? So those are called shorter production runs because you don't have to store anything, right? So that is a good example of, that is another way to understand. So in that case, the advantage is you don't have to worry about storing. You don't have to worry about inventory. I think this is the approach if you see in restaurants and all. Most restaurants and these fast food chains and all, what they do is they target shorter production because they already have some information uh, about how many customers would come per day. Then if it is like a weekend, maybe they will generate more quantities. But what happens is because these food items you can't keep them for more than 2-3 days. These buns and all, buns, vegetables, you can't keep them for a long time, right? You have to finish them then and there. So according to that shorter demand, right, you have a shorter production. So you buy in necessary quantities, produce them, and finish it off, right? Unlike the other ones, like let's say vehicle manufacturing or phone manufacturing, so things like electronic gadgets and all, they need fixed setups. You need to have long production arrangements and things that are going to work for a long time. So this is how you understand detailed schedule. So I hope you understood that. Materials requirement planning determines the amount and timing for placing raw material orders with suppliers. So this is about in what quantities and what arrangements you get the raw materials from your suppliers. That management is called materials requirement plan. The types and amounts of raw materials required to support the planned production schedule are determined by the existing raw material inventory and the BOM, bill of materials, which serves as a recipe of ingredients needed to make each item. So we will have a existing raw material inventory. So let's say in the case of that sink example, you're going to set up a sink. So you may need nails, for example. You may need some nails or bolts, nuts, anything. So you can check whether you already have an inventory at your home. If not, you will then go and make a request to buy that. So that is called MRP. So at a high level, you can think when you're producing something, if you run short of certain inventory items in the raw material, you make a order. Or sometimes you can refer to the bill of materials. What is bill of material? Because you might have already purchased some materials and now you don't have information now. Now you are running short of something. So what you can do is you can check the existing bill of material. It's like a document which will give you an idea in this particular date for this amount of production we targeted, how many things we bought, how many materials we bought. That will give you an idea. So same thing if you take even let's say sometimes some people have these short eats or cake orders. What they do is they will know, okay, if 10 people are asking what is the amount of flour and eggs that need to be purchased. If it is 5 people, what are the things need to purchase? So sometimes you can't keep on remembering these things. So you may already have a bill of materials document in that particular scenario, how many things that were bought or in what quantity it was bought. You can just refer those documents and then come up with the plan of purchasing the necessary things for the new ones. So that is called materials requirement planning. So the quantity of raw materials to order also depends on the lead time and lot size. Okay. So if you are going to do purchasing of materials, you have to take two things into consideration: lead time and the lot size. So lead time is the amount of time it takes from the placement of purchase order until the raw materials arrive at the production facility. Keep in mind, what is lead time? the amount of time it takes from the placement of the order until the raw materials arrive at the production facility. So to understand that, lead time is something like this. You have the ordering date and you have the delivery date. Right? This time is known as lead time. So different, you might see it on the internet, they have different explanations, but simply to understand, the time you ordered until the time you deliver the product, that time is called lead time. So what should we try to achieve in the lead time? Should it be increased or decreased? What should be the objective? Should we have the lead time increased or decreased for a good company? Lead time should be increased or decreased? Who else is there in the call? Yes, exactly, decreased. Now I ask the question, why? Why should it be decreased? What is the purpose? What is the goal? Why is it? Why is the necessity to be decreased? Exactly. One objective is, if you reduce the time from the ordering time and the delivery time, if you are more quick, customers are going to be very happy. These guys have done it very quickly. That's one good thing. The other good thing is, you reduce your inventory costs. You don't have to keep things waiting in the queue. You don't have to think about storage. You don't have to worry about, robbery, or like people, what happened in America. You might know these days, a lot of warehouses were, looted. No, people went and, stole things. So when you think about storage, that is additional headache that comes when you're keeping some items of other people in your hand. So those kind of unnecessary inventory costs can be reduced. So many things get achieved. So that is what we have to consider when you're making an order. Make sure the lead time is not affected. You have to make sure the lead time is not getting increased from what you have promised to the customer. So lead time is the amount of time it takes from the placement of a purchase order until the raw materials arrive at the production facility. The other thing is related to this is lot size. It refers to the discrete quantities. Discrete means like fixed quantities that the supplier will ship, which can result in purchasing complexities if those amounts don't line up with quantities that are economical for the manufacturer to receive or store. Okay. Lot size means when you are requesting something, now customers will not say, let's say, uh, generally they will be delivering you 10 items of a product. That's how the minimum quantity they are going to supply to you is 10. You can't order less than 10. Now let's say you are going to, I'll take this example, what I have mentioned here. A supplier might ship a certain raw material in units of 80,000 pound rail cars, right? So this is their minimum supply quantity. You can't, order 70,000. You can't say something. You have to buy anyway. That extra 10,000, you have to bear it with you, because that is their minimum supply quantity or their target. Now, let's say as a producer, you have a need of 95,000 pounds of the raw material. So now you are in a situation whether you are going to order one or two times of this. So decision must be made to order one or two rail cars of the raw material. Whether you are going to buy just 80,000 and you try to find that 50,000 from somewhere else or another supplier, or are you going to buy two portions of this, like 160,000? So then what happens? You have to deduct the 95,000 and the remaining pounds goes to a warehouse. So this is a decision that needs to be taken in place. So like that you may face. So we have to decide the lot size when you are going to do some production. You have to decide what is the lot size you are going to achieve. So that is part of where you come with this warehouse related stuff. MRP. Next activity in manufacturing is purchasing. It uses the information from MRP to place purchase orders for the raw materials with qualified suppliers. Typically, purchase orders are released so that raw materials arrive just in time to be used in production and to minimize warehouse and storage costs. Right? So this is all about how you purchasing. That's a different activity. Often producers will allow suppliers to tap into data via extranet that enables them to determine what raw materials the producer needs, minimizing the effort and lead time to place and fill purchase orders. So what if you are in a fixed business or long-term partnership? If the supplier has a long-term partnership with your company or as a producing company, you can provide an extranet to your supplier, the people who are going to sell things to you, raw materials. You can provide an extranet so they can observe. You don't have to worry about ordering. They will be proactive in supplying. They will already know when your things are finishing, and then they can get ready in turn as a production company of their own, because now they are going to be another production company who are going to produce some things that are needed for your company. So they can then decide, okay, from the information you provide through a extranet, the suppliers can be more proactive and decide how much things are needed for your company at which time. So they will do that. So this area is handled through the purchasing activity of the SCM management system. Production uses the high-level production schedule to plan the details of running and staffing the production operation. As we took the detailed schedule, it takes into account employee, equipment, raw material availability, along with detailed customer demand data. You take all of these into account and come up with a overall plan and how you're going to manage all this. Sales ordering is the set of activities that must be performed to capture customer sales order. Essential sales order steps include recording the items to be purchased, setting the sales price, recording the order quantity, determining the total cost of the order, including delivery costs, and confirming the customer's available credit. So all these sub-activities come as part of the sales ordering. So sales ordering is something related to the other end, the customer, not the supplier. Supplier is the other end, extreme end. Customer is the so we use this term, keep in mind, we use this term sales purchase. No, so purchase is related to supplier part. Sales is related to the customer side. In the middle, you are the company, right? So sales ordering is all trying to capture. Now, when a customer is ordering something, you see how many items are needed to be passed to the purchasing department. So recording the items. Then you need to decide on the price for the customer. You need to get the order quantity. What is the total cost? Total cost involves you're going to deliver something. If you're doing the logistics, you have to think about that cost as well. And also, very importantly, you have to confirm the customer's available credit. So this is very important before doing all this. When somebody is making an order quantity, you have to see whether the customer has the strength. Otherwise, what will happen? If you don't have that agreement, what will happen? You will produce everything. When you go to the customer's house or customer's company, they will say, we don't have money. Can you come later? Okay, shall I pay this later? Now then, sorry.com. It's going to be a waste of effort of what you have done in these previous 4 steps. So make sure customer has the credit. So if the items the customer wants to order out of stock, the sales order process should communicate this fact and suggest other items to substitute for the customer's initial choice. So that is something you do. If you don't have the stock in hand, how do you go with substitutes? Setting sales prices can be quite complicated and can include quantity discounts, promotions, and incentives. So those things can be considered. After the total cost of the order is determined, company must check the customer's available credit to see if this order is within the credit limit. So sometimes this process can be checked at the beginning, or you have to check it maybe after verifying everything from your side. So that is a decision that can be taken within the company and how you implement your system. Right, how do these things work? So ERP systems do not work directly with the manufacturing machines on the production floor, so they need a way to capture information about what was produced. This data must be passed to the ERP accounting modules to keep an accurate count of finished product inventory. Right, what is produced need to be communicated so that the financial or the accounting modules can keep a track of how much things have been produced and how much is there in the inventory. Many companies have computers on the production floor which are used to track the number of cases of each product item produced, typically by having a worker scan a UPC code on the packing cases used to ship the material. So to keep track of lively how many things are being produced. So they will have a manual person who is scanning each and every item that is produced by having a UPC code. UPC code we learned, universal product code. It can be a barcode or even a QR code is possible. What they do is a person will scan them. So as you scan, instantly that information is coming to the central ERP system. So that is one way you capture live information. Or if you don't have people to do that, you can have RFID chips. So there will be these RFID sensors when these materials are going through the belt. The belt you might have seen in these large manufacturing companies. As they are passing through a particular sensor, automatically that sensor captures the number of items being produced. And you have the end of the day, you have the total quantity lively captured, and even if somebody wants to see what is happening now, they can see the count dynamically changing. Right. Separately, production quality data can be added based on the results of quality tests run on a sample of the product for each batch of product produced. Typically, this data includes the batch identification number, which identifies the production run and the results of various product quality tests. Sometimes what they do is production quality data is based on the whole group of items. Instead of individual ones, you count it in numbers. Maybe after 10 items passed, you generate a record, something like that. So then you take those batches and then decide how much has been produced. Retailers as well as manufacturers use demand forecasting to match production to consumer demand and to allocate products to stores. So they use a different thing called demand forecasting to do the same thing in SCM. Okay, so now those are some high-level things we discussed and an example of where SCM is used in manufacturing. So we discussed under manufacturing, several activities are involved. Now in this section, we are going to discuss about the internal components of SCM and what are the challenges. So starting a business takes ideas, capital, Capital means the initial money, effort is called capital. And technical savvy, you need technical expertise. So that is those are some challenges. Operating one, however, takes supply chain management skills. A successful SCM strategy is based on accurate order processing, just-in-time inventory management, and timely order fulfillment. SCM's increasing importance illustrates how a tool that was a theoretical process 10 years ago is now a very hot competitive weapon. So today it is, as I told, integral. Earlier days, these computers and information systems were used in offline mode. Now it is very much within the blood of SCM. Right, components. So SCM encompasses the planning and management of all activities involved in sourcing, procurement, conversion, and logistics management. It also includes the crucial components of coordination and collaboration with the channel partners, who can be the suppliers, intermediaries, third-party service providers, and customers. Right. So these are also the components. In essence, SCM integrates supply and demand management within and across companies, within the company and also with other companies. So it does this kind of activities. More recently, the loosely coupled self-organizing network of businesses that cooperate to provide product and service offerings has been called as extended enterprise. So, earlier days, you had just an enterprise in the sense one single company trying to do all of this: sourcing, procurement, conversion, logistic management, all the coordinating activities done by a single company. That was an enterprise. Now you have this concept of extended enterprise, where you are not fixed to one person doing all this. You have all your different partners, different stakeholders doing all this together in a way, in an organized way. So each party may be doing one or more of these activities, but the ultimate objective is, as I told at the beginning, how to bring the concept to the market, how to bring the idea to the people as a product or a service, right? So how the different partners can get involved together, that is called extended enterprise. Okay, so supply chain management software and internet technologies can help companies re-engineer and integrate the functional SCM process that support the supply chain lifecycle. So if you look at SCM lifecycle, you have these stages: commit, you schedule, you produce, and you deliver it. So the internal activities or the processes in SCM is given here: forecast, demand planning, customer fulfillment, distribution network, warehouse operations, transportation or logistics, right? All of those are SCM processes. And then what we now have is an integrated solution where you have this cloud environment, where you have supplier, manufacturer, retailer, customer, all coordinating together to make sure getting the right product to the right people at the right time, right? You use an integrated solution. So early days of SCM, initial stages, we use this concept of EDI, electronic data interchange. So EDI involves the electronic exchange of business transaction documents over the internet and other networks between supply chain trading partners. Data representing a variety of business transaction documents such as purchase orders, invoices, are automatically exchanged between computers using standard document message formats, right? Like something like this. This is called an EDI network. You have purchaser, you have supplier, you have the supplier's bank, you have the purchaser's bank. Right? Bank in the sense, whatever, purchaser may have their own place where they have their funds reserved. Suppliers will have their own funds reserved here. So when something needs to happen, so a purchaser will request for a quote from the supplier, so they will send some documents. Then supplier will respond with that. Then once the response comes, these people can make an payment authorization. When they are going to do the payment to the supplier, they will have to contact their relevant bank. Then the bank will respond and also give a notice to the supplier's bank. Okay, this much amount of money is going to be transferred, so make sure the order is gone. Then what happens is the deposit notice or whatever things happens will be passed to the supplier. Then the supplier will start doing. So all these documents, the information flow, as I mentioned, information as well as fund flow happens in standard message formats, such as it could be an email, or it can be a document that is shared. So that was the earlier day, how they did this supply chain management using the EDI framework. But now you have more advanced ways of exchanging information. So typically EDI software is used to convert a company's own document formats into standardized EDI formats as specified by the various standards or protocols. Thus, EDI is an example of the almost complete automation of an e-commerce supply chain process. EDI over the internet using secure VPN, virtual private networks, is a growing B2B application. So today, just instead of communicating through the public internet, within the internet, they create private networks so that other people don't see what is being requested, what is being supplied, how much money is being transferred. External people don't have to see that. So they use virtual private networks where securely a purchaser can connect to the supplier can connect to the purchaser. So that secure networks are called virtual private network. It's like it's like, a LAN within a WAN. To put it in a different word, you have the wide area network called the internet, and you have a private LAN, local area kind of. It's not local area actually. It is a network where only the supplier purchaser entities can connect. No external people can come into that network. So that is more secure. So people then start exchanging documents within that network. So formatted transaction data are transmitted over network links directly between computers without paper documents or human intervention. Besides direct network links between the computers of trading partners, third-party services are also used. Right? Sometimes you need some verifying authority, because like you might have heard of these digital certificates. When you're signing documents, you need these digital certifying authorities. So they are like third-party people, like a broker or a legal entity or a lawyer who is authorizing, creating the trust between the two parties. So that's why we call third-party services. Right? So that is also being used. Today, EDI, so earlier days, they were just documents, as I mentioned, maybe it's just a database or something. But today, it is replaced by XML-based web services, where you have this concept of APIs, application programming. If you want to talk to another company, they will provide you some web services where you transfer the information over XML format. Today, XML is also being replaced by JSON, JSON. You might have heard about that word. So that today's information is mostly shared through JSON. So EDI automatically tracks inventory changes, triggers orders, invoices, and other documents related to transactions, schedules, and confirms delivery and payment. By digitally integrating the supply chain, EDI streamlines processes, saves time, and increases accuracy. Right? So these are some benefits how when the companies or the suppliers, the stakeholders, when they use EDI, it is saving time and increasing the accuracy. So put it as a different way. You have the objectives of a supply chain management and the expected outcomes at different levels of the business. So at the execution level, you want to build and transport your products. So what is the order cycle? You come up with the order cycle, material movement. When and where you think about when and where you want to do things. So you do scheduling, monitoring, controlling. So those are the operational activities. So what are the outcomes of these things? When you use an SCM, you come up with the work center scheduling, order inventory tracking. Then you decide on how much resources, how much material is needed. That is called tactical. So you come up with a demand forecast, production schedules, procurement plans, inventory targets. Then at the strategic level, you want to do the objective, specific objectives, policies. So then you come up with supply policies, how you are going to operate, what is the framework you're going to work with. So different levels of the business, how the SCM objectives come up with these outputs. That is given here. Same thing given in a detailed explanation. So I'll just go through this quickly. So one function is you want to do supply chain design. So under the planning main category, you have supply chain design, collaborative, demand and supply planning. So when you do supply chain design, what is the outcome? So you come up with a proper arrangement of suppliers, production plants and distribution centers. Then when you do collaborative demand and supply planning, you come up with a accurate forecast of customer demand by sharing demand and supply forecast instantaneously across multiple people. You have internet-enabled collaborative scenarios which can do this. Then you have execution part where you have materials management. So when you do this kind of thing, what are the outcomes that come? I just go through, I'll leave this for your reading. So like that you can see the different functions you involved in SCM. What are the outputs that you can expect? So the thing what happens is you have your business goals which you need to align with the customer value goals. So that is a big challenge. As a business, you want to fulfill the rapid demand. You want to make sure collaborative supply chain planning and execution happening place. As a company, production company, you will be focused on the business value goals. At the same time, you have to make sure your business value goals reach or align with the customer value goals, where customers give the customers what they want, when they want it, how they want it, but at the reasonable price, the lowest possible cost. So that is a challenge. So to do this challenge, you have to meet some objectives. So inter-enterprise coordination of manufacturing business process, effective distribution and channel partnerships, responsiveness and accountability to customers. So these objectives need to be met if you want to make your business goals meet the customer value goals. So when you're implementing SCM, you will come up with many issues. So why SCM projects or SCM activities are sometimes failing? Why do SCM things fail? So those reasons are given here. Lack of proper knowledge about demand planning tools and guidelines. So inaccurate or overly optimistic demand forecast will cause major production, inventory and other business problems. No matter how efficiently the rest of the SCM process is constructed, if you have failed in demand forecasts, other things are going to be affected. Inaccurate production, inventory and other business data provided by a company's other information systems. You have many computer systems involved. If you have the wrong data produced, you come up with the wrong wrong planning at each of these things. So that is going to be a major problem affecting. Lack of adequate collaboration among marketing, production, and inventory management departments within a company. If these people don't sync up, if they don't talk to each other properly, then that is going to cause an issue with SCM. It is going to make the SCM efforts very hard. Many companies that are installing SCM systems consider even the SCM software tools themselves to be immature, incomplete, and hard to implement. Right? So this is again a challenge with it's a political decision in the company. When you have a SCM system introduced, if people think these tools are not appropriate, or if the SCM tools are, if you are introducing a SCM tool that is suitable for 10 years ago and you are trying to now implement that in your company, market is different. So that previous version of the SCM tool can still fail because it is not suitable for the modern time, right? So you have to look into what is the latest available SCM activity or the software packages that are available for the modern scenario that needs to be taken into account. So just to give an insight, earlier days people used standalone packages, right? Where these packages were connected with, so each and everything will be a desktop application, but they will be connected to a centralized system. That was the earlier ERP system. But now you can't think of that. You can't think of desktop application. You have to think about web applications where it is connected to a central portal or some remote location it has to be connected. So that is the trend of today's SCM system. So if people have issues with this, if you have these kind of issues, it is going to introduce a lot of problems in the SCM, and the whole SCM process can fail. So what are the trends in supply chain management today? So you need to do information sharing. If you are going to do information sharing, product sales data, sourcing help, logistic, order fulfillment, all these need to be shared with the different partners at different levels. You can't maybe share everything, but at least some information need to be shared. So that is the stage one. So current supply chain improvement. So supply chain is involved. E-commerce is loosely coupled. You don't have strict things to do. So information can be shared with the different partners involved, all the different stakeholders. The second stage is how do you make this information sharing possible? So you need to provide intranet or extranet links to different partners, and then you make sure supplier network expansion is also made possible. So that is what is in the second stage. So that is where you enable order management, inventory management, resource allocation, systems use and integrations. All this is possible. So that is through the second stage. Then after you have done that, you can come to stage 3, where you can involve collaboration for the planning and fulfillment. As I told, concept to market gets achieved at the stage 3 through first 2 stages. So if stage 1 is done, where you have information shared, then you make the framework for that through intranets or extranets. Then you can get the different people to do collaborative planning, where multiple parties get involved in satisfying the customer ultimate objective. So extranet and exchange based collaboration can happen, where you can involve sales, service, collaborative marketing. So when you say collaborative marketing, it's in a way you also promote the product. Even your supplier will promote the product in their channels. So their, let's say maybe their delivery vans or their website, they can promote the same product which you are going to do, right? So that is called collaborative marketing. So this can be achieved. So these are the trends in supply chain management. Any questions on this? So that ends up today's discussion on SCM. That section on SCM is complete. Any questions on that? Any questions you have?